This is a story about fear and love. through the clouds. We were so happy to reach the top, and I was even happier when we got there. I didn't expect this, but at the top of the mountain, all the way up there amongst the clouds, there were bees, many bees. As I was taking a break and eating an apple, sitting down and watching the view, a single bee landed on my knee. I watched as this bee crawled gently on my knee. And in my brief encounter with this bee, I could tell that the bee was gentle, kind, humble, and curious. I didn't want this feeling to end. I didn't want to leave the mountain. And I didn't want this bee to stop crawling on me. As I watched him crawl slowly, I wanted to cry again, but I didn't. When I was young, I was getting this recurring dream a lot. I would dream of a single bee, and this bee would be really close to my face, staring straight at me. I would start to notice the details of this bee. Its eyes, a pair of black, shiny eyes, like sunglasses. Above it had these antennas, a pair of them that would circle about really slowly, robotically. And below the eyes it had a pair of pincers for its mouth. Its head was kind of like a strange diamond. And it had these cute furry hairs all over the head and down to its torso. discovered that a single bee visits something like 5,000 flowers in a day. And 150,000 flowers in its short lifespan of 30 to 60 days. And these bees, they are responsible for something like 30% of the food that we grow. I watch as this bee exits the flower, crawls to the edge of the petal again, takes off, and flies. He flies and flies to another flower, lands on the petal again, and enters it at first, disappearing again. Watches this bee repeats this again and again without taking a rest. He flies from one flower to the next, and then to the next one. And I watched it hypnotized, flying from one flower to another flower. He visits about 5 or 6 flowers, and then I noticed that I was feeling a little bit dizzy. And at the back of my head, I was hearing this ringing sound slowly developing. And it was as if someone had switched on a light around me. And this light was slowly fading brighter and brighter. Really faintly at first. The ringing sound gets louder. And the light gets brighter and brighter. I struggle to focus on this beam. And all this time the bee is just calmly flying around, going about its day. And I watch it, focusing real hard as this sound was developing. My head starts to spin, and this bright light is getting so annoyingly bright that I'm slowly losing sight of the bee. Everywhere around me was getting so noisy, and my head was spinning wildly, while this light was blinding me. Still, I made up a faint appearance of the bee. And this bee seems to be unbothered by this noise and this light. I lose sight of the bee, and this ringing sound is getting so loud. realized that what I was seeing then was either the start of the world or the end of it. I fell in love with an animal, I was already 25 years old. I was going out to dinner with two of my friends, and it was raining heavily again that day. My friend suddenly bent down and grabbed at something white and furry. And I heard him say, "Oh no, poor bird." I saw that he was holding this white, sad-looking, wet bird in his hand. I realized that this was not a wild bird. It was a parrot that probably had escaped from somewhere. And if we had left it there, it would likely be killed by a cat. And so we decided to keep him, and me and my wife, we named him Enzo. Enzo is now my studio mate, and I take him into the studio every day. And he draws with me, which is kind of a difficult affair because my movements are kind of limited because he gets scared really easily. And so I work really small and try not to scare him. Every time I finish a drawing, I would hold it up to Enzo. And ask him if he likes it. And sometimes he does. I could tell because his eyes would kind of close really slowly, kind of like a half close. And he would make this really soothing clicking noises. That he's smiling. Sometimes I catch Enzo dreaming. He too has these dreams where he is falling, and he lets out a cute sound and loses his balance. Enzo is so afraid of the world. He rarely ever sleeps like other birds do, with both of his eyes closed. He always keeps one of them open, as if he doesn't trust the world around him. But 1 or 2 times a year, really rarely, we catch Enzo sleeping like other birds do. What he'll do is he will tuck his head into the fluff of his neck and turn into this one beautiful, precious, white ball of fluff sitting on my shoulder. He only does this when he feels safe, I guess. And usually after he's had a good day, which would involve him taking a shower and having some of his favorite fruits. And he's sitting on my shoulder as I'm drawing. It's a really strange thing for an animal to trust a human. We humans, we have so much to be ashamed of, and so many reasons to be fearful. But sometimes Enzo feels safe with me, and I do not take this feeling for granted. And it's one of the best things in the world. It's a really strange thing to keep a bird in the house. You want it to be free, but at the same time, Enzo will die if he flies away. Although he is dying while he is trapped in my house. So then all of the work that I make is for him, and he is my favorite thing in this world. expect to fall in love with another animal so soon. A while ago, me and my wife, we bought a house on the 5th floor, overlooking a car park, like most houses do. The car park had trees in there, and when we stand by the window, we are kind of about the same height as the top of the trees. And a while ago, I noticed crows with sticks in their mouths. I learned that if you follow a crow holding a stick, you would find where it is building its nest. This one particular crow was building a nest just about 5 or 6 meters away from us, and I could see it really clearly from my window. At first I thought it was just one crow, but then I noticed a second one building the nest together with this crow. I watched as they built this nest over about 2 weeks, working really hard every day, making sure that it lasts the rain and the wind. They spent about 2 weeks building this nest, and shortly after that I noticed that one of the crows, presumably the mother crow, is now laying on top of this nest. She lays there all the time, and I assume at some point she lays a couple of eggs, and she's now beginning the process of incubating the eggs, waiting for them to hatch. All this while, the other crow is always close by, watching it and supporting it, and coming by every hour or so to feed it. It's difficult not to fall in love with these animals, seeing as how similar they are to us, and how they care for each other, and how they show their affection to each other. I noticed this crow was getting restless sometimes, and laying on the nest was not something easy for it to do. She gets up to shift herself a couple of times a day, stretching her legs, looking down at her eggs. And sometimes when the rain gets so heavy, I worry for the nest and go back to check after the storm is over. She spends about 3 or 4 weeks doing this. All this time again, the second crow is always close by, often waiting at the tree next to it, and the moment the mother crow calls for it, it will go up to the tree and answer. They were truly doing this whole thing together, and it was really beautiful to watch. After 3 or 4 weeks, I noticed something had changed. It was early in the morning and I was getting ready to go to work, and I noticed that the 2 crows were standing beside the nest, looking down at the nest. And they had this look of relief and joy. As I looked closer, I noticed 4 tiny chicks, their heads peeking out from the nest. The eggs have hatched. The chicks were so precious, they were only about the size of my thumb. Still no feathers on them, and their eyes closed, their beaks facing up, constantly crying. And the parents looked so proud of themselves. Me and my wife, we were so happy watching them. We were so happy until all of a sudden we weren't happy anymore. I heard the sound of a loud truck coming by. And as it turned into the road, I realized that it was one of those trucks that would come to trim the trees. I remember thinking to myself and hoping that this truck wouldn't stop by this tree, the one with the crows in it. But to my horror, it did. And a worker wearing a helmet raises himself up to the tree on the cherry picker, heading straight for the nest. I see both of his hands reaching out for the nest. In one swift motion, he grabs a hold of the nest. With the babies inside of it, and chucks it into a garnish sack. The parents have fled the tree at this point, knowing that there was nothing they could do to stop this, and they watch in horror from the tree next door. As this worker removes the nest and calmly lowers himself down the cherry picker, gets into the truck and drives away. The parent crows start flying around frantically in a panic, manically screaming at the top of their lungs and swooping down at the tree, looking for its nest, but knowing that it has been taken away and there was nothing else they could do but fly about in protest, reacting like how any parent would if their children were being taken away from them. They fly and fly and fly, but there was nothing they could do. And they repeat this behavior for about an hour or so. What is it about the crows that we hate so much? Are they too ugly? Too scary? Do they sound too nasty? Are there too many of them? On the eve of a long trip, I cycled out to find something. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I remember being nervous and afraid of going on this trip to Mexico. I was afraid of leaving my home, my wife, my parrot, my studio, and Singapore. This country is a shell that I've hidden for 29 years of my life. I decided to cycle out to ShanghART River Road. It is a new road that was built purely for the construction of a new train station close to where I live. And no one uses this road except for heavy vehicles and the workers that were there building the station. When I reached the road, I encountered 5 dogs. Ferocious dogs, or so I thought. Stray dogs. And when they saw me, they started barking at me. And before I knew it, one of them came running straight after me, chasing me. As I cycle away in a panic, turned around and looked at the dog chasing me and smiled to myself. I realized that they were what I was looking for that night, why I had cycled out, what I was finding. And in that moment I realized that what I was looking for was fear. Fear in this country is a really strange thing. You see, we have no natural disasters and no predators that are really out to hunt us or anything. But there they were, these dogs that were coming straight for me, ready to rip me into shreds. And I had never felt this feeling before. I had never been this afraid in my life. At least not in this country. I watched them running after me, I realized how beautiful they were. Their movements were unpredictable, darting diagonally across the road. It was as if the rules of the city, everything that I've learned, do not apply here. And I'm out here with these dogs that were capable of killing me. So majestic. The most wild thing that I've ever seen in this country. I was never really close to my father, and he was much of a hermit. I've never met any of his friends for the 29 years of my life. But he used to have friends, and he would tell me about his stories going on these trips with them. And I would really enjoy listening to them. He tells me about his trips to the mountains. And in this one particular story, he is supposed to climb the mountains with two of his friends. And they decided to cancel on him last minute. And for some strange reason, he decides to go on this trip alone. Which is a really strange thing to do. Anyway, he decides decides to climb this mountain, the same one that I climbed with my friends. And the trip is going well, and he climbs his way up the mountain until about 4 or 5 in the evening. He decides to set up his camp right by a waterfall. A beautiful, majestic waterfall. And it was cooling up there with a nice view. Eventually the night came, and he realized that he wasn't alone on this mountain. He had a strange feeling that there was something with him. Something that was following him, watching him. He searches frantically for this thing. And it is so difficult to see in the dark. And the sound of the waterfall was so loud that he could barely hear anything else around him. And he searches and searches, and eventually he sees it. Somewhere on top of the mountains, above this waterfall, which was about 5 or 6 stories high, he notices a pair of eyes watching him. He could tell that this was something big from the distance of the eyes. For some strange reason, he wasn't afraid. He felt at peace, he said, and was ready for this thing to come for him, knowing that there was nothing he could do in the mountains, nothing that he could do to fight off this large cat, perhaps. And so he went to sleep. I learned that when he was young, he was getting this recurring nightmare. This one single nightmare that would creep up on him and haunt him for most of his childhood. the cave were about 3 or 4 stories high, impossible for him to climb out of. The single cavern above him was lit by the moonlight. He could see the escape route, but he wouldn't be able to climb up this cave wall. And so he was trapped. He knew that there was nothing he could do, and so he walks about in this cave. Slow at first, but they quicken as he realizes he wasn't alone in this cave, and that there was something with him in this cave, stalking him. Into a slow jog, and then he notices that there was an opening somewhere in the distance, and this wall was short enough for him to climb up, and he quickly makes his way, running towards this wall, and the wall gets further and further away from him. But he's making good ground, and eventually he reaches about 10 meters away from this opening. But at once he stopped in his tracks. In between him and this opening, a puma emerges, standing between him and the escape route, looking at him straight in the eyes. He wakes up crying. He wasn't sure why he was getting this same dream again and again, but as he grew older, it eventually faded away. When I came back from my long trip, all that I could think about was to go back and see the dogs again. I knew that there was something that I had missed from that night that they had chased me. I kept going back to see them when I came back. And then I would come back to my studio and draw them. a magnet, again and again and again. I wanted to feel this feeling again, this feeling of fear, this feeling so foreign to me in my country. And I knew that there was something I didn't understand, and that I needed to go closer to them. But they simply wouldn't let me. Until everything changed when I decided to feed them. When I brought them food, they slowly crept out of the darkness. And for the first time, I could see them. Their heads were bowed, and they were cautious, moving like ghosts, staying a few feet away from the shadows all the time. As I kept going back, I started to recognize the dogs. There was the pregnant dog with her belly hanging and her movements slow, and she looked considerably older than the rest of the dogs. And then there was the one with the pointy ears that had a hop in its step, and a fur that was shinier than the rest. And then there was this one particular dog. The dog with its ears kind of droopy, and the saddest face of them all. It crept out into the darkness and walked until it was only about a meter away from me. And I could hear it whimper really softly, asking me for more food. And in that moment, I was shocked to see what I had saw. Looking into its eyes, I saw fear. All this while I was thinking that I was afraid of them. But somehow I was the monster, and she was shivering at the sight of me. I think I've fallen in love with the domes. I think I really have. We're not supposed to love them. We're supposed to be scared. I used to be scared too, but not anymore. I realized I was scared because I didn't really know. The dogs I love are the ones outside. They hide in the forest and come out at night. The night is for those that can't be seen. The ugly, the scary, and the unclean. No one knows from where they came. But like the rats and the crows, around us they will remain. The dogs they bark and sometimes they chase. They bark and chase when they feel unsafe. It's not their fault that they don't feel safe. There are many reasons to be afraid of the human race. I want to go closer to them. I want to see them clearly. I wonder if there's some part of them that I see in me. I look into their eyes and I know what I see. I see them shivering in fear. The enemy is me. Who do we love in the city, and who does the city love? And who do we fear, and who does the city fear?